at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Welcome to the best soccer show. The best soccer show in the whole world.
We are coming to you live. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, NASNradio.com. It's Thursday. We are live on a Thursday. Jason Davis and Jared Dubois here with you. It feels like it's been forever since we've been live on the air, Jared. How do we do this? I forget. How do we do the live show?
We didn't do a live show last week, huh? Because of Trevor being trapped in an elevator, huh?
Well, I don't think that was it. I think it was
Halloween.
It was Halloween. It was the MLS playoffs, which are going on as we speak. I mean, this is the rescheduled game, DC United and New York Red Bulls, that's happening right now on a television in front of my eyeballs. With no score in this game, 1-1 on aggregate. We're going to watch this game as the night goes along. We're going to talk MLS playoffs. Plenty to talk about there. LA beats San Jose, knocks out the top seed. RSL in Seattle tonight. You've got Houston knocking off the top seed in the East, Sporting Kansas City. Plenty to talk about on the MLS playoffs.
Let me ask you a question regarding those two games from last night. Which one surprised you more? Houston knocking off top-seeded Kansas City or LA knocking off top-seeded San Jose?
I would say that LA beating San Jose at home like that, not necessarily winning the series. I could kind of see that happening over two legs, but going in with a deficit, scoring 3 goals, I was a little surprised that San Jose kind of laid down for that one. That was the surprise for me. And Chris Wondolowski missed a couple of chances that really could have changed that game. I didn't get to watch it. I watched the highlights, full disclosure, because it was way too late for me. An 11 o'clock kickoff here, Jared, come on. Come on.
You're
East Coast
kind of
people
a puss.
live like this.
Kind of a puss.
Okay, but I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning the night before watching the election. So give me I'm a good American citizen.
So basically,
here.
you chose politics over soccer this week.
I kind of did, but I did watch the first game last night. Or no, I watched the first game last night. I watched the Houston Sporting Kansas City game, which originally wasn't going to be on national television. We got lucky. Kind of, because of the
worked out in our favor because MSNBC. God, I said MSNBC. NBC Sports goes ahead and shows that game and postpones the New York game till tonight, and we get to see every game. And it's actually kind of worked well in that regard. Unfortunately, that means a Saturday game gets pushed to Sunday, and that's I don't know. I guess I don't like the fact there's no soccer on Saturday this week.
That's a problem. And look, that's why. Ultimately, why MLS did what they did with the DC United Red Bulls game on Wednesday, and why that situation got turned into a farce and became a problem, because they were grasping and clawing and fighting for every possibility of keeping that. It was going to be an over-the-air NBC proper game on Saturday, Jared. They were trying to save that spot. That's why they waited so long. That's why 700 DC United fans who traveled up on buses courtesy of the team were stuck in that stadium for a couple of hours waiting for them to make a decision.
Now, I heard that DC paid the cost to have the buses stay an extra day, but did it put up for lodging for those fans or anything?
No, they came back last night. Those fans who went down last night came back last night. I got report that most buses arrived back in DC at 4 in the morning. There is no lodging in New Jersey. There's no hotels available in New Jersey, considering the situation after Hurricane Sandy. So that wasn't even possible if they wanted to. And plus, most of those people, have regular jobs. Took off Wednesday, took a day off from work to go up to New York for that game. They get stuck. They get stuck. The game gets canceled. They're there. The players came out and thanked him, which was a very nice gesture on the part of the DC United fans.
That's a Ben Olsen coach team right there. You know that's a Ben Olsen move to say to have those guys go up there and show their appreciation like that. Very good job by DC and their players and their organization on that end. But I guess part of me is kind of. MLS Don Garber comes out today, puts out a letter of apology. Do you think? Obviously, I think it was a good gesture by Don Garber to put the letter out there. But does it kind of feel like too little, too late?
It's a little hollow. And look, he had to do this. They were taking an absolute. Okay, now granted, I live in a little bubble, and I'm on Twitter, and it's a lot of DC United people and everything else. But they were taking an absolute beating over that situation. I saw Red Bulls fans. Our boy Mark Fishkin from Seeing Red said they should have called it, well before they did, and even the DC United fans who wanted to play because they were already there, and Ben Olsen said he wanted to play, and DC United was ready to play. Even they said, well, if you're going to call it way before. And the issue for most people in Jersey is that they knew this was coming, that the forecast said snow and wind, and it was going to be bad. Why did MLS? And like I said, ultimately MLS is a slave to the television. And I don't blame anybody for being upset. And ultimately they probably should have called the game well before they did, Jared. But we can't get upset about the way the league is doing TV wise, which ultimately more television ratings means more money, means a better league, right? So we can't get upset about the television ratings on one hand and then complain when the league is trying to do everything they can to save a TV date. Now, the issue is the fans. That's the issue. The fans that went up there on buses and took a day off from their jobs and didn't get to see a game and had to come back in late at night last night. And one of those buses spun off the road. Got
really? I did not hear that.
And the fans were stranded on the side of the Jersey Turnpike for a while. So it was just a debacle all the way around. He had to put out the apology. It is what it is. I don't think he could have phrased it any better, but it's not going to mollify a lot of people. It's not going to make a lot of people happy.
You know what I was kind of surprised by? How polar opposites Baca and Olsen were really kind of how they handle the situation, where you have one guy that says, I have no idea why this is even a question. We shouldn't be playing this game. It's not going to be soccer, football, whatever he wants to call it in Swedish land. And Olsen saying, I want to play this game.
Well, I think it is funny that the Swede is the guy saying, oh, no, we can't play in the winter weather.
Which makes me wonder, is Philly worse than Sweden?
No, Philly, Jersey. What are you talking about?
You're confused. He's from Philly. Ben Olsen's from Philly.
Ben Olsen, he's from Pennsylvania. He's not from Philly. I see what you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sure some heavy winters in Pennsylvania where Ben Olsen's from. But I think ultimately it came down to the fact that that's just Ben Olsen's personality, first of all. And second of all, they knew it would probably play to their advantage. Watch them tonight. Do they want to play? Do they want to do they really want to play with New York? Or do they want to just kind of hold on, see what happens, maybe get to penalties and let their luck fall where it may? I think that
New York's been the aggressor so far. I think that's pretty clear. I think New York has been
home. They should be. And they have the better offensive talent. I think that's the point is Ben Olsen knew, hey, we really can't go toe-to-toe with Thierry Henry and Kenny Cooper and these guys. We're going to have to
let the elements be the great equalizer.
Sure. Let the elements be the great equalizer. And again, but I think basically it was a matter of just personality and attitude. Hans Baca, refined European soccer coach, coached under Sven-Goran Eriksson and has all of this experience in the top leagues in Europe, and then comes over here and for him, that was unplayable. And I think it was unplayable ultimately. I mean, I don't know what it was like when they got all of the snow off, but when Nelson Rodriguez finally said, we're going to cancel this, I agreed with that decision based on what I saw on TV. Obviously, I'm not there. But at the same time, I, as a fan and being selfish, I wanted to see it because I said that game could have been incredibly iconic, especially for this.
I just love that by doing this, though, we got to watch one of the more entertaining games of the entire postseason so far. That Kansas City-Houston game was right up to the end, really fantastic to watch.
That game was insane, and game was insane because Houston was going to do what Houston does when they have a lead, and they sat, and it was funny. We switch over from, I don't know what just happened in this DC United Red Bulls game, but somebody, Boscovich maybe on the ground. I'm not sure who that is. I saw a card. Was there a red flag?
Yellow card to Marquez.
Okay, so yeah, yellow card to Rafael Marquez, a DC United player on the ground. That's a hand up in the face from Rafa. That's pretty much his style. Back to Houston and Sporting Kansas City. I was kind of amused. Eddie Robinson, that's the first time I've heard Eddie Robinson do a game, and I thought he was very good. I thought he was excellent.
I think he sounded exactly like Taylor Twellman.
Except for saying offsides, which bugged me. But he did say before the game started, Houston is not going to sit back. Houston's going to go out. No, Houston sat back. Houston conceded possession.
Don Goodyear doesn't get those rings on his fingers by being stupid.
No. And we just watched LA beat Vancouver in that playing game. And that was one of the most one-sided in terms of who sat back and who actually had the ball. One of the most one-sided games I've seen in MLS in a long time. The bus was parked. Houston was playing so deep that they needed a pressurized submarine to play down there. It was very, very deep, and it made it for an exciting game in one direction. Houston got a couple of breakouts, didn't really do much with the ball. Ultimately, You can't feel sorry for Sporting Kansas City. They should have done better. They had their chances.
Yep.
But it's kind of sad to see that team who was built, to make this run and go win a championship, and obviously has the talent to do so, come up short. And they got domed. They just got domed, Jared. Teams get domed in the playoffs.
The sad thing for me is that may be the last time we see Roger Espinoza in MLS, and I think that team is going to have a very, very hard time recovering from the loss of Roger Espinoza. I don't know that they have someone in the wings that can kind of step into that role and play nearly as well as Roger Espinoza does. And all night, if you look last night, I mean, first of all, Graham Zusi played excellent last night, and just from a U.S. national team level, I am stoked that we have a guy. That's the first guy I've seen that has an engine like Michael Bradley. That guy's engine does not stop. And then on top of that service that he put across the box for Sinovic on that diving header, beautiful.
Beautiful service, kind of in a no man's land height area. And I think we were talking about this. How difficult is it for Sinovic to make the right decision? We've seen that ball side-footed over the net 1,000 times.
I love that move. That's my favorite move. If someone puts that ball in there, that's just like a moneymaker. I love diving headers. They're just so fun. And when it's played in like that, there's no one contesting it. You don't have to worry about getting your head knocked off or anything like that. I think it's an easy call for Sinovic, and it's a great put away.
We do it, like I said, MLS playoffs. We got the game going on right now. RSL in Seattle coming up from Rio Tinto at 10 o'clock. We'll talk about that game, previewing that game a little bit later. But I should mention that we've got Grant Wahl coming up in the next segment, in the next couple of minutes, as a matter of fact, to talk about the Hex draw down in Miami. He was there. I want to ask him if there are any twitterings. That's not the right word, but any chatter about Copa Fantastico, Jared. It had to have come up. All of the bigwigs from CONCACAF were down there.
I want to talk about the sluts that were on stage last night.
Oh my God! Are you allowed? Are you allowed?
You threw up a couple like showgirls on stage at an event. That's kind of slutty.
Look, it looked like somebody said this on Twitter. I'm not taking credit, but it did look like it was being filmed in somebody's basement. And in fact, I think the person who made the joke said Chuck Blazer's basement. It looked very low rent. And then they bring these two blondes up. And then look, you can walk down the street anywhere in Miami and find a couple of girls to open, the little balls for the for the draw. It was a very interesting production. And
if you're gonna call your chicks ballsters, I'm gonna call them sluts. I'm sorry.
Is that what they called them? I don't know that.
They were referred to as ballsters all night by people I know that were there.
And obviously, we've got to talk about the actual draw, and this is kind of fascinating from a U.S. men's national team standpoint. It doesn't start easy, Jared, and there's got to be some concerns. So we'll talk to Grant Wahl about how things line up for the men's national team. Looks like a big save from Bill Hamid. And this is what Bill Hamid does. He makes he just got his face in the way. Bill Hamid makes amazing saves, but then the goal that he gave up against New York and DC was such a disaster, Jared.
But listen, as a young keeper, what you want to see is how does he react to that? How does he come back from that? And so far tonight, he's been big.
Off the shoulder, actually, on that save, made himself big. That's a very good save. Hopefully, and I see differing opinions on this. Will he get better and improve? And the same for Sean Johnson, who's a great shot stopper as well, but seems to have problems with when he comes out and crosses.
Here's my thing with this. When I look at goalkeepers, I look at one attribute that's kind of similar to field players. You can't teach speed. You can't teach being a shot stopper. That's instinct. But what you can teach a guy is positioning, composure. That's kind of thing that you can teach Bill Hamid and Sean Johnson still. They are shot stoppers innately.
I agree, but like I said, I've seen some people say that the mistakes, that the kind of the flubs or the derps don't go away. That those kind of haunt a goalkeeper for. I know, I agree. They're both very young keepers, and I don't know that we should immediately close the book on them becoming complete keepers. Tim Howard made his share of mistakes. I don't know what the future for the U.S. men's national team goalkeeping situation is, but I imagine Brad Guzan's in line to take over when Tim Howard is done, which may not be too long. Tim Howard's starting to look a little human, Jared. It's kind of scary, but
in the meantime, though, Nick Romano's still looking inhuman. Sure, I just think Nick Romano. If Tim Howard went down right now, who's your number one?
It's Nick Romano. I'm sorry. It's Guzan. I think. I think it's Guzan. Look, the reason is Nick Romano he's not big. He's too small. I think he's
my God, you're gonna play the Nick Romano too small card.
Grant Wahl coming up on the other side of this break, guys. Is the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, NASNradio.com. Jason and Jared back on the Best Soccer Show. None of you people are listening to us. You're all watching what's going down in New Jersey. Bill Hamid comes out off his line. Did we see a red card?
Yes.
Guys? Grant Wahl, Sports Illustrated, Fox Soccer Channel's on the line with us. And we're going to talk Hex Draw, and we're going to talk Copa America 2016 and all of those things. But right now, I've got to figure out what's going on in this MLS playoff game. This is game-changing. Is it a penalty? Did we get a penalty as well?
I don't know. It hasn't cut back. It's everyone arguing right now. I saw Bill Hamid came out. He's not stepping back on the field, so it looks like Hamid's off.
Okay, so he got the red card. I don't know if that's offside or not. That's what they're looking at there. Obviously, don't have the audio on. That's a penalty. That's in the box.
Yeah, there's no debating that.
We can't waste Grant's time though.
Sorry, he's watching too.
No, I know he's watching, but just back from Miami, the CONCACAF hexagonal draw just happened last night during the MLS playoffs, which was interesting. I saw they put it on video, Grant, and it didn't look like the most the most expensive operation. How would you categorize this CONCACAF draw last night?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I saw it in person, so it didn't look so bad in Miami, but. Yeah, it sounded like it wasn't exactly one of these, UEFA things or one of the FIFA World Player of the Year ceremonies. But, CONCACAF's trying. They got some new guys in charge there. Jurgen Manka just moved from PR, the New York Red Bulls, over to CONCACAF, and he knows what he's doing. So they'll get things going there. What I was saying was that they've done this kind of very global thing of turning a non-event into, at least attempting to make it a glitzy event.
I think CONCACAF's trying to get their big boy pants on one leg at a time. I mean, trying to get the CONCACAF Champions League more involved. They're trying to be more big time than they have been in the past.
I don't want to criticize too. I don't want to be too critical.
Okay, but one thing that you can say coming out of this draw is that it didn't necessarily go the best way it could possibly go for the U.S. Obviously, Mexico game in the summer at home instead of in the winter. Overall, this is a pretty tough draw for the U.S., isn't it, Grant?
I have a hard time imagining much of a tougher draw than this one. The fact that the U.S. has 3 of its first 4 games in the Hex on the road, they're
right.
The only team out of the 6 that has that. And we've seen how poorly the U.S. has played on the road during the semifinal round. So if that were to continue, things get pretty hairy pretty quickly, especially because 3 of those first 4 games for the U.S. are against probably the 3 other best teams in the group: Mexico, Honduras, Costa Rica.
Right.
So, that's going to be awfully difficult. The saving grace is that the U.S. has 3 of its last 4 at home. And also I think the big saving grace for everyone in CONCACAF, as Kenny Cooper discoursed, is that, you're probably going to see 4 CONCACAF teams in the World Cup in 2014 because they changed the playoff from having to play against the 5th place team from South America to Oceania, which means probably New Zealand. So I'd much rather play New Zealand than Uruguay.
Sure.
With a World Cup berth on the line.
Absolutely. The opening schedule. I mean, you could worry that that's going to set the tone for the United States. Like you said, this team has struggled on the road. I don't think anybody's convinced that Jurgen Klinsmann quite has a grasp of what CONCACAF entails or what it requires of him. But if they don't get how many points what's the worst case scenario? Do they come out of that with no points? I don't know if that's possible, but if what's the worst case scenario, and how much danger are they in of not qualifying if those first 3 games go really bad?
Well, to put things in perspective here, if you finish in the top 4, you'll be in pretty good shape, right?
Right.
So you have to do pretty horribly to finish 5th or 6th.
We got to talk worst case scenarios. People get nervous, Grant, and it's out there. It's out there. I mean, look, you're right. The saving grace is out of 6 teams, 3 of them qualify, and 1 of them has what we'll call a relatively easy test to get to the World Cup. But then again, this is also U.S. soccer, and while I think coming behind Mexico would be galling, but okay, if they finish 3rd or 4th, that's not exactly a check mark in Jurgen Klinsmann's column.
true. And you look at the semifinal round, and they took qualification to the last game, which was the first time the U.S. had done that since 2000 in any round of World Cup qualifying. And I could very easily see this round going to the final game, in part because there's so many road games to start. So it's going to be tough. Having to go to Mexico in March in the third game of this round is going to be tough. I'm curious to see how things start off in Honduras. You remember on the road in Honduras the last time around was where the U.S. won 3-2 and just a tremendously entertaining game and qualified for the World Cup that night.
That was the Connor Casey game that everybody remembers.
Oh, exactly. But Pavone missing the penalty kick right near the end.
Right.
Just an amazing game. So, there's an option or a possibility that the U.S. Could go down there and potentially get a win. They've gotten wins in Honduras before.
Mark picked up a second yellow. Just got to note that.
Yeah, so Kenny Cooper missed the PK. Marquez is off. All hell's breaking loose in New York.
We're being distracted. Jared, go ahead.
So, Grant, anytime the schedule comes out, the first game I always look for is I look to see the U.S.-Mexico game. So used to seeing it in the winter. Obviously, as we talked about already, it's coming up in the summer this year. Does that make everyone's still talking about like it's an automatic Columbus home game there or a hosted game? If it's in the summer, do we just lose the advantage and we're just playing Mystique?
Well, you got to remember that not every one of these three games qualifiers in Columbus over the years has been in the winter. There was one that was in September in Columbus, and that's when the U.S. qualified for the 2006 World Cup by beating Mexico. So there is a precedent for a summer game against Mexico in Columbus. It may not be a Guerra Fria exactly, but that's okay. If you had to ask me at this point, I still think Columbus has a decent shot at hosting this game. There was some reports in the Mexican media, I was told this morning, that their FA president was saying that Daniel Gulati told him that game would not be in Columbus. My sense actually now is that Gulati did the typical thing he does, which was kind of a funny joke the first time, but less funny the 10th time, of saying to him, if you move the game from Mexico City, we'll move the game from Columbus. Nobody expects the game to be moved from the Azteca, and I don't, frankly, at this point, expect the game to be moved from Columbus.
That was another report that I saw. I mean, it's all secondhand, third-hand information on Twitter, but mentions of kind of some handshake agreement about we won't play. You don't play us at Azteca. We won't play in Columbus. That is that even
Columbus? Columbus is not nearly as dangerous as Azteca.
Well, no, surely not. That's why I think Gulati would do that in a second if he had the opportunity. Let's pretend, it's not going to happen. As you said, it more than likely, Mexico will host the United States at Azteca, and the United States will probably play at Columbus, although there's a couple of decent possibilities elsewhere. But even if they did do this, is it frowned upon? It seems to me like it kind of against the spirit of competition. You play where you play, right?
In the ranking system of shadiness that goes on in international soccer politics, I think it's fairly far down the list.
Good point. Yes,
it sounds like the Grant Wahl president of FIFA stump speech here.
Right.
So, Grant, one thing we want to talk about is the possible hex venues.
What I find funny is Gulati had told me years ago that he had said, if you move it out of Mexico, if you play the game in Monterrey, Mexico, we'll move ours to Los Angeles, which if he was actually serious about is sort of shocking to me to actually play the U.S.-Mexico game in L.A.
That's 2 home games for Mexico. You're completely giving up any advantage that you have if you do that. Why would you do that?
Grant, so put on your prognosticator cap here for a second here. Does Seattle get a game in this next round of hex qualifying? They put grass on that turf, and U.S. Soccer be okay with hosting a game there?
I just don't feel it, My sense is that the U.S. Soccer does not want to lay down a temporary grass field for a World Cup qualifier of tremendous importance. We've seen it so many times now that it just doesn't play right. In bad cases, I think of some of the Gold Cup venues last year, it's almost dangerous to have these types of fields to play on.
Okay, Grant, I'm going to throw some stadiums at you. I mean, obviously the number of games is limited. There's not a lot to go around. It's just 5, but throw some stadiums at you. You tell me yes or no if they get a game. You don't have to tell me what game you expect. Just yes or no. Livestrong Sporting Park,
Yes.
Rio Tinto Stadium,
Yes.
Red Bull Arena,
No.
RFK Stadium.
No.
All right, so we've got Columbus is in play. I think we all kind of agree it would be odd to move that game out of Columbus. Nashville. Good question.
I think we're going to get a random, semi-random southern venue for at least one. So Nashville, Birmingham, potentially Tampa.
Houston? No, not in play.
Nice stadium. It depends on the opponent. I mean,
Right.
maybe against like Jamaica.
Sure. Now you're down there amongst the CONCACAF elites, and a lot of the chatter in the last month or so has been about this Copa America in 2016 and the possibilities for that. Was there any talk down there during this draw about what might be going on with CONMEBOL in that situation?
There really wasn't anything new, in addition to the press release and that CONCACAF and U.S. Soccer had put out, which was essentially communicating CONMEBOL jumped the gun. We're interested, but this is not a done deal yet. Everyone's waiting for FIFA to rule on this tournament and put it on the official calendar for 2016. And FIFA, the media people at FIFA told me the earliest that could happen is in December when they have an executive committee meeting around the Club World Cup. And that's when it could happen, but it's still very much an open question of whether FIFA will agree to put it on the calendar and, most importantly, require every country to have clubs release their players to every country for that tournament. We haven't seen a kind of intercontinental tournament like this that's not a Confederations Cup or a World Cup, and there may be some people within FIFA who frown on that, and even if they do approve it, the executive committee, the way FIFA politics works, all those guys on the executive committee are going to want to get something in return for voting for them.
Grant, just to turn the tables real quick before we get you out of here. Real quick, I had a quick exchange with you on Twitter last night, or I can't remember if it was last night or today, about regarding Wondolowski and his talking point about his contract should be renegotiated based on how he does in the postseason. And I kind of brought up to you that a guy with an agent doesn't make that statement. How much did Wondolowski hurt his chances of getting that big payday by having that statement and then not showing up basically as an MVP should in a scenario where they needed their MVP to be a big player?
Well, I think he's just probably too honest for his own good if he's going to serve as his own agent. I think that when he goes into this meeting with John Doyle and Frank Yallop and potentially ownership from San Jose, do I think that they will look at him and kind of frown and say, well, Chris, you said that it was, a lot depended on the postseason. We're not going to give you as much now. I don't think that's going to happen. I think these guys have a respectful relationship toward Wando, and I think it's a mutual thing. Do I also think that Wando had an agent that he could get a fair amount more from San Jose in negotiations? Yes, I do feel that way.
All right, that's Grant Wahl from Sports Illustrated's Fox Soccer channel. Thanks a lot for your time, Grant. Enjoy the rest of this game, which is ramping up and getting awfully crazy.
Exactly. Thanks, guys. Take
Thanks.
care.
Talk to you soon. We're gonna try to hook up with Jonathan Tannenwald from Philly.com after this game. He's at Red Bull Arena. We're in the 83rd minute, 84th minute coming up. Jared, do you want to take a break now? That way we can set up for the end of the game and trying to get Tannenwald on. Does that sound like a good idea?
Let's go for it.
Let's take a break now. Thank you to Grant Wahl for coming on and talking about the CONCACAF draw, Copa Fantastico, which we didn't drop on him. I should have dropped. See how he thought about what he thought about Copa Fantastico.
He listens. He knows.
Yeah, that's true. He does. Best Soccer Show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Don't go anywhere, guys. Jason and Jared back on the Best Soccer Show, North American Soccer Network. We're live on Thursday. I'm going to get rid of this music right now because Jonathan Tannenwald from Philly.com, the goalkeeper on Twitter, go follow him, is live at Red Bull Arena. He's with us now. How are you, Jonathan?
Cold. How are you?
Cold. Outside on press row at Red Bull Arena. First, give us a sense of the atmosphere. Obviously, this game was moved from Wednesday night in the big snowstorm. How's the building? How's the feel? I mean, it's MLS playoffs. It's supposed to be, supposed to have some energy.
There's a pretty good vibe.
Okay.
Both supporters clubs are quite loud. Obviously, there are not very many other people here in the stadium.
So I know
no lack of atmosphere.
I know the transportation has been an issue. Right now, we're getting a little bit of that crowd.
2 hours to get here from Manhattan.
Oh, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible.
Wow.
0-0 in the 87th minute, 1-1 on aggregate. Talk a little bit about what's happened so far. Kenny Cooper in the PK, that's the big moment.
It definitely is. I thought the PK was a fair call. I thought Hamid definitely clipped a bit of Cooper, and I didn't really think the ball was there. I think the encroachment was right. I didn't see it live. When I saw the replay, it was pretty obvious, but initially I wasn't sure whether it was encroachment or the stutter step by Cooper.
Yeah, John, what's the sense on the Rafa Marquez?
14,000? Sounds insane. I'm not sure about that. Go ahead, Jared.
What's the sense on the ground there with the Marquez red card? Is it a feeling that it might be a bit of a makeup call for the sending off of Hamid, or is that well deserved?
Not torn.
Go ahead, Jonathan. Okay.
I can't. Sorry, guys. The connection's great. I'll do my best. I can't call any Marquez booking a makeup call.
That's a solid play. All right. If this game goes to extra time,
DC, was it onside? Yes, it was.
Do we have a goal from DC United? We are catching up on the TV situation here. It looks like Jonathan has just told us DC United onside.
Wow. We got the call. You got the call before the TV here.
Well, good. Nick DeLeon scores for DC United, puts them ahead in the series 2-1 with very little time left. John, is there any chance Red Bulls can come back and pull this one off?
They've got the talent on the field to do it. I'm waiting for the replay to see whether it was completely onside. Big shout by the Red Bulls for offside. I'm not sure.
We'll have to see if the Red Bulls can pull something off. We appreciate the time, Jonathan. Stay warm up there in New York. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Connor Lade leaves Nick DeLeon on.
Jonathan Tannenwald from Red Bull Arena. Obviously, our connection. Look, technology is amazing. We can talk to him while he's in the stadium. Just a little bit of delay. We'll deal with that. Connor Lade keeps Nick DeLeon on. Nice finish from DeLeon past Luis Robles. Looks like DC is going to be moving on. Look, I'm going to say this right now. Be super selfish. That's amazing for me. This is the best result possible for me. And if they go on and beat Houston, I'm having the MLS Cup in my home.
I know. You and I are both battling for that right now because I need Houston to win and LA to win, so LA host. You need DC to win, so DC host. But either way, it looks like it's going to be pretty good for a Best Soccer Show right now. One thing I do want to talk about though, DC kind of deserves this. And with all the DC's got jerked around, and not on purpose. This last turn, they lose out on their home field advantage. They end up getting bussed down there, and they have to stay an extra night. The game gets canceled. DC deserves a chance to host things the right way.
New York gets a corner here in the 90th minute. Have to see if they can convert this to bring the teams level. Look. You're right to a point. DC United got screwed by the hurricane switching the dates. That's obviously a big deal. And to hear the supporters tell it, they think the league screwed DC United by moving that game from Wednesday night. Obviously, if they go on and win, it'll be water under the bridge, and no one will. Well, they'll still hate the league, but it'll be water under the bridge at least for now. Oh wow, look at this! New York's making a change. Kaká's brother is coming on in the 90th minute. This is basically what.
There's a Brazilian out there whose brother isn't his agent?
New York's on their last legs here.
One thing I got to say, you're talking about being a little bit selfish. I mean, a selfish thing right now, I want to say, you just got to, I mean, I like that we had Tannenwald on there. The goal comes off before it even comes off on TV. You get it here first. This is the future of what we were talking about last week about starting NASN, starting MLS Tonight, which we kind of talked about a little bit last week, where you have live updates from stadiums live every Saturday night. It's the future, really.
if you want to make MLS tonight happen, well, first of all, listen, spread the word, help us make the network bigger and better, because obviously that's going to require some investment on the part of some people. And I mean, not just money, that's obviously a part of it, but it's also about time for all of us. 4 hours on Saturday night, that's going to be a pretty big deal. If everything goes right, we will kick that off for 2013. It'll be amazing. But we need your support. We need you guys to help spread the word on NASN and get it out there, get it bigger. Hopefully we can get some people involved, some partners. We need some partners up in here. Why don't we have partners?
Crazy. We're like 40 minutes into the show. We haven't even talked about Real Salt Lake and Seattle.
I know, and we're going to get to it. The game hasn't happened yet. This stuff happening now, stuff happening last night. Things are kind of crazy at the moment. This is what I'm going to say. I want our phone lines, which are open, by the way, 201-430-2378. I haven't given that out tonight yet because we knew we were going to have Grant and we knew we were going to try to talk to Jonathan. But they are open if you want to get in. I want them to be named something. I'm driving around, I'm listening to sports talk radio, and I know I'm talking about that a lot recently. But they all have sponsors for their phone lines. It's the Jonathan Alexander, like the jewelry store phone lines, or it's the carpet cleaning phone lines. It cracks me up. But I want our phone lines. It doesn't have to be. I don't have to have like a. We don't have to have a sponsor, but I feel like they should have a name. Shouldn't our phone lines have a name, like the Paul Caligiuri shot heard around the world phone lines?
Oh God, that's terrible. That's terrible.
Well, then give me something. I want it to be
the soccer wave hotline.
The soccer, right? The Kick Medic best soccer show hotline. Absolutely. I think that's something that needs to happen. While we wait here, looks like it's a free kick for New York. Wow, this is getting crazy. We've got 4 minutes of added time, about a minute and a half left by the time they get this kickoff. It's got to be Henry. He's got to take it. I don't know what Roy Miller's doing standing there. New York if New York loses this game, and obviously there's still a little bit of time left for them to salvage this, but if New York loses this game, it's another disappointment. Hans Baca cannot hold on to that job, Jared.
Well, come on, he's been a lame duck for a month and a half. Okay, everyone knows that Baca's out. Everyone around him's out. Everyone's on their way out. This was always going to be the way this season was going to end for New York. It really was. It's unmet expectations by both the players, the coach, the franchise. They're going to reboot. So I mean, they weren't going to make MLS Cup. I'm sorry, they were not going to make MLS Cup.
I mean, obviously they have the talent to compete with anybody, but I watched them on Saturday night in DC, and maybe they weren't going for anything. They were on the road. Maybe the idea was just to keep it close and get back to New York. And obviously the switch in venues changed some mentalities, but they didn't look like a team at all. They were completely disjointed. There was no connection between what they were doing defensively and what they were doing offensively. I watched Thierry Henry stand around for an hour and a half, and it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't.
I just watched Thierry Henry stand next to a free kick and let Roy Miller take it.
Well, I don't know what's going on there. I have not defended, but I have believed, I've wanted to believe that Thierry Henry is fully in this, that he didn't come to MLS to retire, as we keep talking about with these older European players. But there are times, and maybe it's just a French thing. Maybe he's just really, really French, Jared. But there are times you watch Thierry Henry do what he does. Where it's talking after a game and bitching about his teammates or throwing his hands up when he doesn't get the perfect pass from somebody. It's so petulant, and it's such a bad.
I don't like that you just put French and bitch in the same sentence. And my last name's Dubois.
You are not French. You are 100% American. You just have to have
français.
Probably, yeah, un peu. No, you don't speak some guy. Come on, throw me some French, Jared. Come on, Dubois. Come on,
let's see, l'étoile. No, je veux l'étoile dans tes yeux. I see the stars in your eyes.
Oh, so you only know game. You only know.
That's right. That's right. What other reason is there to learn French?
Look, I took some French in high school, just a little bit. So I've got a couple of skills, but I don't think I've ever thrown it at a girl before. I don't think that's
ever. How big is the loss of Bill Hamid going to be if they move on to the next round? That's a big loss for DC.
It is obviously a big loss. I mean, Joe Willis has filled in fairly well in the past for them. Did he get some? He got some time this year, right? Bill Hamid had an injury.
Hamid was out for about a month or so.
And Joe Willis did a decent job. I don't think it necessarily means they're dead in the water. We've already talked about Bill Hamid being prone to mistakes. He can obviously take a shot. It's over. DC United moving on to the Eastern Conference Championship against the Houston Dynamo. First leg is in Houston. Look, I don't know how to handicap that. Now that it's DC, I'm going to have to pick Houston. I mean, as much as I want the MLS Cup in my backyard here.
I'm sorry, DC minus Dwayne De Rosario, DC minus Bill Hamid. You're missing a lot of components, and maybe they can get De Rosario on the field by the weekend. I'm not quite sure. He didn't dress. He didn't make the squad for the New York game. But that's a lot. I mean, you were already missing last year's MVP, and now you're missing your starting goalkeeper as well. Now, DC has had a season where they've overcome obstacles and constantly worked around whatever problem that they've had, but they've got a lot up against them right now. And not just that, they have Dom Kinnear up against them.
Yes, Dom Kinnear. Houston has got to avoid getting dumped. Full credit to Ben Olsen for the job he's done, especially since D-Rose been out. Now, DC does not play great soccer at this point. They are not going to wow anyone with the style of play that they're putting out there. It's been effective to this point. They obviously got through New York. This series, though. This series is so odd, Jared, and there's so much weirdness happening around it. It's almost unfair to say that DC United came out the better team. I mean, it's just a matter of, it's almost like an outlast. They get the one nice pass. Connor Lade makes a mistake, and he made a lot of mistakes in this series. Connor Lade was not good.
That's your boy.
I take a step back on not ready for the playoffs, not ready for prime time. Connor Lade, and we're talking about calling him up for the national team or anything anytime soon. He's a nice young player, and it's good to see homegrown players come through and get some time. But because of the schedule switch, moving the first leg to DC, because of the snowstorm, canceling that game last night, moving it to tonight, it's just hard to even put your finger on all of this. But like I said, regardless, Hans Backe can't keep his job at this point. It hasn't worked. I mean, if you're talking New York, how many years no cups, Jared? How many
the entire time?
I mean, I'm sure I don't have the volume on. I'm sure DC United fans right now in that stadium are doing the chant. 16 years no cups or whatever it is. It's out of control at this point. You are a marquee franchise in MLS just based on where you're located. When New York 2 finally comes around, they build that stadium in Queens, Jared, and that happens. That team's going to win a trophy before the New York Red Bulls at this rate. So how can you possibly? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Keep changing things. They got new management. The people in Austria aren't happy. They signed Hans Backe. Okay. They bring in Thierry Henry. Okay. They got Tim Cahill. They've got Rafa Marquez. They're spending gobs and gobs of cash and they have no return for it.
Well, there's one thing that can be said with the teams that are left and are already secured their conference finals position. I mean, it's the storied teams of MLS, the Houstons, the LAs, the DCs. 3 of the 4 positions locked up already are the teams that have been there before and done it and have a history of winning in this league.
But I don't think that has anything to do with DC United's success, except for the fact that they got that guy on the sideline that's been there and done it. But those players,
the guy that's been there for the Cups, I mean, is the guy that's coaching the team now. It does have something to do with it.
You're going to argue that Ben Olsen's experience as an MLS player transfers over to a young team that has no playoff.
Because Ben Olsen is so shortly removed from the exact position those players are in, and some of them played with him as a player as well. He is a player's coach. Ben Olsen is a player's coach.
2007 is the last time DC United was in the playoffs. I mean, that Ben Olsen was on that team in 2007. That's 5 years. That's not shortly removed. That's a long time ago.
I'm saying he was playing just shortly removed from playing.
I gotcha. No, I understand, and obviously, I do think it has some effect. And to be honest with you, I had some chats with some people on Saturday night. He's an interesting guy because he's not Ben Olsen as the player. When he's on the sideline, he might be boisterous and loud and yelling. But when he's in that press conference after that game, when he could have legitimately had some concerns about the referees and things didn't go his way, and there were some issues in that game, and it wasn't great. He said, "You know what? We're fine. They're beatable. We know."
Yeah, I'm sorry, but on the field, this DC United team plays like Ben Olsen does. That team plays with heart.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's attractive for the rest of us. If you're a neutral right now and you're looking down the barrel of DC United and Houston over 2 legs, are you excited at all? Do you have anything?
No, but I don't know that there's the Eastern Conference team I was excited about.
Okay, well, at least with New York, Thierry Henry can pull something out of his pocket and it might be amazing.
Doug Garber's the one crying tonight. He's not going to get LA New York. He was really kind of close to it.
Everybody completely well, okay. Every league wants their marquee teams in. It's not just Don Garber. I mean, you're right that Don Garber's probably not happy about this, but it's not like he's going to go cry in his pillow tonight because he didn't get in LA and New York in the
I think this is better. If DC United makes the final, it's better than New York making the final because DC needs that franchise and that community back.
Okay, I agree from just a micro level that yes, DC United getting back on top would be an amazing thing for MLS because of their pedigree. It would be a great push for them to get closer to a stadium situation happening in the district. So there are some good things that come out of DC United being where they are. All right, let's take a break. Let's set up for wow, that's really loud. Let's set up for the last segment of the show. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, NASNradio.com. Don't go anywhere. Jason Jared back on the Best Soccer Show live Thursday nights, talking to you about soccer. That's what we do on this program. We are ahead of RSL and Seattle, getting ready for that epic second leg. That's got to be good, right? I mean, it's got to be better than DC or New York.
If the playoffs this year has told us anything, the second round matchups are the ones that live up to expectations. You look at LA, San Jose last night. You look at DC or New York tonight. The second round's where it's at.
The problem is that that RSL has had a problem scoring. They just can't score. It's all gone out the window for them for whatever reason. They've got a lineup here. Ramondo, obviously, well, not obviously, and apparently I mistook an Andy Williams tweet. Oh, how wrong of me to misinterpret a tweet I didn't understand. I shouldn't have mentioned it. Like I caught out on Twitter, Jared, because I misinterpreted Andy Williams' tweet to Kyle Reinisch. Anyway, Nick Ramondo is starting, broken nose and all. Beltran, Alave, Borchers, Wingard in the back. Beckerman, Grabavoy, Johnson, and Morales, Sabarillo, and Paulo Jr. up front.
It's first choice with the exception of Spindola.
Yeah, is Espindola, is he ruled out for any particular reason, or is this just a benching because the man cannot seem to kick the ball
He
in
is
the net?
on the bench right now.
Interesting decision from Jason Christ putting in Paulo Jr., who I don't think is a better finisher than Fabian Espindola.
I think he's a better playmaker, but he's not a better finisher.
Perhaps a better playmaker. He's not going to give you as much work rate as Fabian Espindola.
No.
For the Sounders, Hahnemann.
That can be right.
What is going on here? Hahnemann, this is what I'm seeing from producer Trevor.
No, that's from Joshua Myers. So that's usually a pretty good source in Seattle.
Joshua Myers would certainly know. Hahnemann, Scott, Rose, Kasky, Zakuani, Estrada, and Ochoa. Is that everybody, or am I missing somebody in that lineup? One,
excuse me, that's the bench.
Oh my gosh, that's the bench. Hahnemann's on the bench. Look what you did to me. I'm sorry, that's my fault. I didn't read. I didn't read the word bench. You know, guys, just pretend like you didn't hear anything of what we just said in the last 2 minutes. Just throw it all out the window. We'll effort out the
Seattle starting lineup is Gasperning, Johansson, Park, Hurtado, Birch, which is pretty much their starting, their first choice back four. Evans, Alonso, Tiffert, Martinez, and then Montero and Eddie Johnson is ready and playing up top.
Eddie Johnson back in the lineup. That's big for the Sounders. Do you have a feel on this game? I mean, honestly, I don't know.
I think advantage goes to Rio Tinto, to be honest with you. I think that's going to be the kind of deciding factor here. I think RSL playing at home, if you look at last year or maybe the last 2 years combined, RSL is a great home team, as is Seattle. And Seattle didn't get the job done up there. And I think the advantage here goes to two teams opening up in the second leg. And if the game opens up, that favors RSL because their possession-based system is really good at breaking down, especially if there's space. And if Seattle opens up and allows there to be space, RSL can exploit it.
I tend to think that that stretched game actually benefits Seattle a little bit more than RSL.
For counterattack, yes.
Sure, well, I just mean if you give Seattle to some space to come at you, you're going to be in trouble. And I'll throw this counterpoint at you about the home field advantage for RSL. And granted, Rio Tinto is a great stadium, and those fans get into it and they do their believe thing with the guy from the punk band. I don't understand any of that stuff, but I mean, I don't know who that person is. I just know it's good.
You don't know who the drummer for Rancid is?
No, I was never into
Rancid. So disconnected, like West Coast to East Coast. The West Coast, everybody knows Rancid.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out here that know Rancid, but that's not my thing. I don't know Rancid. Come on.
But it makes you feel better. He wasn't the original drummer.
Yeah, I know that. I did look that up at some point. I will say that the Earthquakes didn't lose at home, and they lost at home last night. And they got beat pretty emphatically by the LA Galaxy last night. And while the LA Galaxy may be more expensive, I don't know that makes them more talented than the Seattle Sounders. So there is nothing that says Seattle cannot walk into that building. This is MLS. And pull off.
This is frustrating though for me as a Galaxy guy. This is really frustrating because you watch a game like the first leg against San Jose at home. The Galaxy looks like the waning star, a team that's getting older, a team that might be behind its best days. And then you watch the game against San Jose, and they're as sharp as they were last season. It's really, really tough thing to watch with LA right now. Is that you don't know which team you're getting. And it all comes down to if Landon Donovan is interested or not in that particular game.
Yeah, and he certainly was last night. And if you could look, Robbie Keane is, I know he costs a lot of money. I know there was a transfer fee involved, and you can argue about value. This is MLS. You're supposed to get players on the cheap and turn them into stars. That's what Chris Wondolowski is. Houston trades him to San Jose for Cam Weaver and a draft pick. And that draft pick became Steven Betishore, by the way. So obviously San Jose made out in that deal. He goes on to score 60 goals in 3 years, and the Quakes look like geniuses, and they're only paying him whatever they're paying him. I don't know what his salary is. But they got him, they're getting massive production out of a player for almost nothing. Whereas LA goes out on the transfer market, drops a bunch of money on Robbie Keane, brings him over, and again, the value's not the same.
It's the safer bet though. It's the safety of those two moves. I mean, one of them you know what you're getting. The other one happened to work out in your favor.
The man creates chance after chance after chance. Sometimes he has issues putting
the Donovan Keane relationship right now might be the best 1-2 combination in MLS in terms of understanding and the way that they work off each other.
Yeah, no, there are a couple of other combinations. I think Freddie Montero and Eddie Johnson are right up there.
I would say so as well.
I will say that Robbie Keane. and Landon Donovan together are very potent. And it was interesting to see LA do what they did, starting Edson Buttle, because I know you were a little nervous about that. That hadn't worked in the first leg. Why would you? Why would you start? Well, not yeah. It wasn't the first leg. It was against. Was it the first leg that they started Buttle, or did they start Landon Donovan up top? They
landed Donovan up top for the first leg. Second leg, they start Buttle. And I listen, I get it. Buttle's supposed to hold up the play. I get it. He's supposed to kind of bring the people into an attack. I just don't think that if that's the only reason you have Buttle, then you're overpaying him. You're way overpaying Edson Buttle. If he's not going to give you anything on the score sheet, I don't know. I don't see Edson Buttle's role. I think it looks like Bruce Arena trying to get his money's worth out of a player, to be honest with you.
We are talking about we were supposed to be talking about RSL in Seattle. I mean, obviously, that is just a tense series. And that first game up there in Seattle, no one seemed to really. I mean, there was the goalkeeper standing on their heads. Nick Raimondo being the number one there, and it's obviously huge that RSL has Nick Raimondo in the net tonight. He's going to give them a lot of confidence to go and find the goal that's going to win them this series. I expected over extra time in the DC United Red Bulls. We didn't get it. DC finds the goal in the last couple minutes to win it. Do you expect this one to go any longer than 90 minutes? You think someone?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think what I like about this is what I enjoy about this matchup off the field is that you have kind of the Padawan and the master kind of relationship here. Is you have Ziggy Schmidt, a guy the most winningest coach in MLS, going against Jason Kreis, who is the future of coaching in this league. I'm really excited to see who makes the better moves and kind of who adapts to the way the game's going early.
The adjustments will obviously be crucial. We're keeping our eyes on the on NBC Sports to see when that game kicks off. We got a couple of minutes here. Is there anything else that we definitely should hit on, Jared, or do you want to go ahead and wrap this one up? And
Question for you: does Kenny Cooper come back to New York next season?
They would be crazy to let him go, provided
they actually play him.
Well, I was just thinking. How can they keep that team together? There's rumors Rafa Marquez is going to go to Atlas on loan over the break. Or I guess that's a loan over the break. I mean, there's
the whole non-factor of Sebastian Letou. That's one of the biggest storylines about New York season, as far as I can tell, is that you have a guy here who has had success everywhere he's gone, and you can't find a way to even get him in the team.
Well, Sebastian Letou, you talking about Kenny Cooper or Sebastian Letou?
Sebastian Letou.
He started on Saturday night. That didn't work out. They bring on Kenny Cooper and things get a little bit better.
I think that's on Baca.
Sure, it's on Baca, but Letou wasn't actually burning up the league when he was in Vancouver either. His success started in Philadelphia. Letou's situation is interesting. Philadelphia wants him. Well, the fans want him back. I don't know that they would bring him back. Although, obviously, with Novak gone, it kind of greases the.
Listen, you're playing damage control in Philly right now with your fan base. Bringing a guy that's a fan favorite like that back would be huge.
No, it would be huge. But what do you have to pay him? Has his value dropped enough where it makes sense for them to bring him back? They didn't want to pay him what he was worth when he was there the first time, hence the trade.
Star's not as shiny as when he left, that's for sure.
No, they dumped him basically because they didn't want to pay him, not because he wasn't producing. We talked about him as an MVP candidate the year before they let him go. And if you bring him back, I mean, maybe you do get him at a discount now. He does a circuit around the country, around around North America. Now he comes back to you and he's $100,000 less. That actually might work out for Philadelphia, and they could use an injection of goodwill down there. Or up there.
Listen, if they can move the salary of Freddie Adu, they can afford a guy like Letou easily.
All right, let's get out of the way. This is the MLS playoffs. We're not quite up on our hour, but hey, you know what? We're not gonna be here. We talked over DC United and the Red Bulls couldn't be helped. But why don't we get out of the way here, Jared? Let the people know. We'll be back on the weekend with our regular podcast. We'll be back on Monday with our regular podcast. Send your emails to show@bestsoccershow.com. Hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/bestsoccershow. We're always putting little notes in there. Maybe we'll work out some bonus content, working out some new games. We've got to come up with some new games. Anything else on the horizon? I know people are constantly asking us about the Indiegogo rewards. We are working on that. Trust me, we are working on that. It's a little bit more complicated than we thought it was going to be. I don't really want to go into why, but we are working on it. Hopefully we'll have an update for you soon. Jared is telling me Russia in the chat. Is that a hint that we should talk about Russia? Or
I'm saying that that's something that's going to be on the horizon here. I'm sure on Sunday we'll be previewing some of that Russia news. I'm not sure if we're going to have a lineup by then or not. Do you know when lineup's coming out for that?
The roster it should come out on on a day that makes sense for us. It always comes out like a day after. So I don't have any hope necessarily that the roster for the Russia game is going to come out before we can do our next show. Although we know, I will throw this note in. We know Breck Shea won't be on it. Out 3 months with some foot operation. Removing a bone. I guess it wasn't an important bone. So you can have your bone, like your tonsils out. You can have a bone removed in your foot.
Well, obviously, players like Graham Zusi, Matt Beasler now available. You might see maybe some MLS guys that are kind of fringe players getting a nod for the Russia game.
Maybe Mix Discarud. I don't know. Maybe Josh Gatt. That's on the horizon. Maybe Sasha Kleshtin gets a call. I mean, a lot of Euro-based guys are going to be in the mix, you would figure. So we'll have to see what happens there. All right, is that it? That's it. Go watch RSL in Seattle. Do you want to throw out a prediction? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go
2-1 RSL.
2-1 RSL. 1-0 Seattle. Seattle for me. It'll be an interesting Western Conference final with LA. All right, guys. We'll talk to you on the weekend. Bye.